Hey, welcome back to the Circle of Knowledge podcast. This is your host, Jon Kovach Jr. with Amplified Minds, also founder of the Champion Circle. I am really excited today. You know, I'm always super excited, but this is season 4 of the podcast. You 20,000 listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us. And today marks just a really great time for us to reconnect with the history of our podcast. It was this month, just 2 years ago, that we started recording in the basement of Matt Fritchie's house up here in Heber City, Utah. And we were so scared that the house with a wife and baby upstairs would pick up the noise in the microphone. And so we were hiding in a tiny little closet where he hid, his storage closet and his guns and everything else. And we were huddled up in a corner, facing the microphone and launching our first podcast episode. And today we're a little less strict and a lot more lenient. And we're hanging out at the desk. I've got just the Bluetooth microphone and we're having a lot of fun. Today is a really fun day as well because I get to interview a good friend and an awesome, awesome person, a really, really high class and an incredible professional. His name, and I'm going to bring him up here on the screen. And for those listening, his name is Brian K Wright. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, welcome. Thank you, John. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, and I want to give a little bit of background to who Brian is, and then I want to kind of tee you off to talk a little bit about your background as well. So I won't give the full introduction, but what I really wanted to do was talk about how we met. But before that, I want to share that Brian is a speaker and author, a radio show host for the Success Profiles radio show, and he has had the opportunity, and I get just like really giddy knowing the kinds of people and the people that Brian has had the opportunity to interview, to build relationships with, and to publish magazines, books, and articles for. And it's just so amazing. And Success Profiles is just like the inkling of the actual success and the opportunities that Brian has seen, has experienced in his career. And I get to sit here in this passenger seat and learn. I'm so excited to learn from you and to talk. But Brian, we had met as I got to be a co-MC at the Habitude Warrior Conference this past February, right before coronavirus hit in Houston, Texas. And you helped Mr. Eric Swanson, host of the Habitude Warrior Conference. You helped him build their Habitude Warrior Influencers magazine.
Yeah, it was a great event. It was a great time. It was awesome meeting you and a whole bunch of other people. I got to reconnect with people that I had met before and got to meet some brand new, amazing people such as yourself that I'm connecting with going forward. I can't wait to see everything that is in store for us going down the road.
And there's some new developments in our relationship. You've met my partner, and we're going to be writing a soon. And I won't discuss any openings or disclose anything, but we're going to have some developments together. And soon enough, we'll be interviewing together as well. And there are just going to be some awesome opportunities.
Yeah, it'll be really, really fantastic. I'm looking forward to it.
So to tell my audience a little bit more about you, and then I want you to talk about you because I want to hear more about you and I need to learn as much as I can and have our audience connect with you. But I told you who he is and I told you a bit of his background, and he has so much in his resume that just speaks to success and to highlighting and bringing the awesomeness out of people. It's so cool to see that. But what I will tell you is my personal perspective. And when I met Brian had gotten up and he had given his presentation, and in just 5 minutes, like I'm an active participant and I'm one of the managers, one of the team members of the Habitude Warrior team. And I didn't realize how much power Brian had. And when he got up to speak for 5 minutes to talk about the Success Profiles and Success Magazine, in just 2 minutes, I was captivated. I was like, wow, that is amazing. Everyone in this room doesn't understand the value that Brian provides. And because they don't understand, I don't think they're going to get it. And so I made sure that I walked around and I was like, hey, did you go check out the back table with Brian before I even talked to Brian? And then as I made my way back to Brian, I was like, Brian, first of all, your smile lights up a room. Second, your energy, it's amazing. And third, I just love you. Like you're just a good person. And then we kind of clicked it from there, and we had a great conversation, and we've been talking about development and that was my personal story and connection. But I
Oh,
recognize that a lot of business owners, a lot of business people, and they don't understand the value that
mhm.
oftentimes comes from what you can provide. Being on radio,
Yeah.
being in a magazine, being in a book,
Mhm.
all of that is fantastic and amazing in an
Yeah.
opportunistic way that gives them more leverage in their life and their business.
Yeah.
So that's my
Yeah.
personal take and angle on how
Wow.
we met. Isn't that funny?
That's good. We can stop now. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of that. No, it was really great to be on stage and to talk about, my journey a little bit and discuss my journey through the radio show and developing a magazine. I'll just tell you a little bit about my background. I actually
Please
have a
do.
teaching background, which probably shouldn't surprise very many people considering what you just said. But I used to teach in a college environment. I taught at a 2-year business school called Lincoln School of Commerce in Lincoln, Nebraska. They no longer exist. They're closed. It was bought by Kaplan. They are no longer there. So I taught public speaking, English composition, and business math. Now you might think that's an odd combination of classes. Well, they were all general studies courses. They were all required, and I love all three. And so it was my job to make it more fun and interesting, because when you are required to take a class, you don't want to go. You just don't want to
Right.
go. And so I tried to make it more fun and interesting. The public speaking class in particular, I know people have a real phobia about speaking on stage or speaking in front of a room. So I break the ice on the very first day. You're going to stand up and introduce yourself, 2 minutes, not graded. You're getting, just 0 points credit, but you get credit for doing it. We're breaking the ice on the very first day so that you don't have to dread this. I think people probably appreciated that once it was over with.
Yeah.
The assignment was a demonstration speech. And so again, a comfort zone thing, you're already putting someone out of their comfort zone. So you want to add a little bit of comfortableness to it just to kind of get people to get a little bit excited about trying it. So I would have them do a demonstration speech. So basically that means you're going to show us how to do something. Well, we all know how to do something. It's just a matter of picking something you can demonstrate in 4 to 6 minutes. And those were usually fun. Then the assignments got progressively a little bit more challenging from there. But it was fun. So I got to teach for about 5 years. I also was a resume writer while I was in Nebraska. So I wrote resumes on the side because my teaching gig was a Monday through Thursday thing. So I had Friday, Saturday, Sunday off every week. And you might think, wow, that's cool. And it was cool. But the money was just okay. And so I had to do a side gig in order to keep things afloat and do what I needed to do. So I did. I did that, eventually moved to Arizona in 1996. I've been out here for 24 years.
Wow.
Found myself in the call center world for quite a while. So yes, I was one of those people that would call you, but I called uh, consumers in some of my roles. I called businesses in some of my roles. In some of the companies that I was in, I got promoted to trainer because I did pretty well in a lot of the companies that I was in. In one particular company, I got to be a floor supervisor. And in another company, I got to be the payroll manager. And so I did payroll every single week for up to 400 employees a week in 3 different locations. And managing that was pretty fun. In fact, I was given an assistant eventually. And so that really helped a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so from there, I ended up working for a real estate agent. I wasn't selling real estate. I wasn't doing anything like that. I was cold calling and trying to find people who wanted to buy or sell their home. And I was also calling people in the neighborhoods of open houses that we were going to have, inviting people to open houses. So that was interesting. So I would get a small piece of the the business when someone would list or when someone would buy or sell their home. And of course, the real estate agent, got a pretty sizable commission. And there was one buyer that I found, or one seller that I found, who had 5 properties, and they were all investment properties. And while I was working for him, the guy sold all 5 of his houses for him. So that was a nice chunk of change. And he gave me a nice bonus at Christmas time for finding that one buyer. Sometimes one customer, one client can spin off a whole bunch of business. So you want to treat everyone right, because you just don't know who they know. You don't know what their assets are. You don't know what opportunities that person has to offer you down the line. And if you treat them right, they'll reciprocate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. I
Yeah.
I absolutely love hearing the background and the story, because what people usually see when it comes to the aura of success, right,
Yeah.
is they see the present. But
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes they forget that there was the
Mm-hmm.
past, there was the
Yeah.
journey. And I love that you're now sitting where you're at, and you confidently tell the story that you've done everything from payroll management to call center stuff to bookkeeping to all of these things. And now you're sitting in the seat of the dream job.
Yeah. And so what's interesting about that is when I was working for this real estate agent, I was doing my radio show since January 2012. So in the last few years, when I did have a job with other people, they knew and understood that I do a show on Monday at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, and I have to leave on Monday early. And they were all fine with it. And I wouldn't work for someone who wasn't fine with it. So that's good. And I was also ghostwriting. I started ghostwriting books for people during that time as well. Well, the guy I was working for realized eventually that I was more interested in building my dream than I was in working for him. And he asked me a few times, I would love for you to work more hours because I got to set my own hours. And I kept saying no. And so we finally had a parting of the ways. And we're still very good friends to this day. Love him. He's really fantastic. Very successful real estate agent in Fountain Hills, Arizona. And the day after this happened, which was on a Friday, the day after this happened, which was on a Saturday, actually, I felt free. I'm like, yay, I'm free to do what I need to do. But then it hit me, what just happened here? Because on Monday, I had nowhere to go. That's when it hit me. So now, how am I going to really scale this business now? And it took a while, but I'm at a place where I'm doing only what I'm doing, working with clients. I'm ghostwriting books. I'm publishing my own magazine. I'm editing magazines for other people. I'm doing my radio show. I'm doing magazine projects with private clients. It keeps me very, very busy, and I'm never, ever bored, ever. That's great.
That is awesome. I think that's awesome because when you're positioned to now take action because there's nothing else you can do, a little desperation sets in, a little bit of, oh man, I really need to take action. I really need to make this work. But that is oftentimes the fuel for the entrepreneur. It's oftentimes the fuel that gets us to say, well, this is going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to have to do things that I don't like to do, but I have to do them. And then you start walking down those roads and all of a sudden you're in the weeds. And then, soon enough, you're part of it all and you're doing what you love.
And one of my little secrets is I just started declaring stuff, because like I mentioned, I used to teach English composition. I had a book already done. It was a student leadership book. And I hadn't written a book for someone else before, but I just started declaring, this is what I do. I ghostwrite books for people. I just started telling people I do this. In fact, one friend of mine said, I've always wanted to write a book. Would you coach me through the process? And would you be willing to do it for free in exchange for a great testimonial? Because you're going to need a portfolio and you're going to need social proof. I agreed. So I wasn't writing his book. I was coaching him through it. And he was really ambitious and he was a great student and he took my feedback to heart and he wrote his book pretty quickly and he gave me a great testimonial. So now I had proof. And this is the thing. If you're going to sell a high ticket item, you better have some social proof. You should have some testimonials. You should have examples of people you've worked with. And if you don't have those examples, be willing to do your first one for free or for cost, if at all possible, because having proof will be important. In fact, I have people ask me for samples of my work. So I'm glad that I have them.
That's a good point. I think it's interesting, and I'm not one for name dropping for credibility. I'm more of social proof and so forth. But give us an example of some of the success profiles you've been able to highlight. Some of your favorites, some of the people who you've been able to conduct interviews with and work with. Just if you would like to name a few, that'd be so much fun to hear.
Well, since you've invited me.
Yes, I did. Kevin Harrington. Whoa, Kevin, nice to meet you. Oh, it's the magazine.
It's the magazine. This was my very first one. And so the reason I started a magazine was I realized I had so much radio show content that I hadn't been repurposing. So this is the thing. If you are creating content, don't just do something with it once. Find ways to repurpose it, because people who know I have a radio show may not know I do a magazine. People who see my magazine may not know I ghostwrite books for people. People who are my ghostwriting clients may not know I do a show. So it all synergizes. And so it all spider webs together. So once people find you and they like what you're doing, they want to know what else you're doing, because superfan will buy everything you're doing, right? Think about your favorite band, your favorite musician. If you like one album of theirs, don't you look and see what else they've done too?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you see if they're performing somewhere? Oh, yes, you do. Do you buy their merchandise? Oh, yeah, you do. Superfan buys everything. So that's the thing. If you have enough superfans, you can sustain a business and be good to go. So Kevin was my very first magazine cover. And when I bought the domain name for successprofilesmagazine.com, I sat on it for a couple of years before I did anything. And so it was time to renew it for the third year. And I realized, Brian, you're paying for something. You've not done anything with it. I didn't want to be that guy who always talked about it. I'm going to do this someday. And so I was convicted in that moment. I need to do something. This was in September 2017. So I started thinking, who could my first magazine cover be? And I thought of Kevin Harrington immediately, because I had interviewed him on my show just several months prior. So I emailed him. And I said, Kevin, thank you once again for being on my show a few months ago. It was a really fantastic interview. I have a new thing that I'm working on. I'm going to be starting Success Profiles magazine. I'd like for you to be the first person on the cover. I will curate material from the interview we've already done, so no extra effort is required of you. So this is the key. If you want to work with high-level people, make it easy for them to say yes. Don't make them jump through your hoops. They aren't going to do it. They don't have time. So make it super simple, easy for them to say yes. I said, all I need is a great photo. He's like, I'm in. 90 minutes later, he emailed me and said, I'm in. So that's what this was. And now 30 issues later, 2.5 years later, I'm working on an issue that's almost completed about how the movie How Thoughts Become Things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is a sequel to The Secret. It's being billed as the sequel to The Secret. In fact, Doug Vermeeren, who's the producer of the movie, funneled a whole bunch of high-level people to me to interview who were in this movie. So in April, I got to interview John Assaraf, Joe Vitale, John DeMartini, who's been on my show 2 previous times. Who else? Oh, John DeMartini. Okay, wait. John DeMartini, Joe Vitale, John Assaraf, Dennis Waitley. He was fantastic. He's going to be on the cover. And a few other people, and then a few other people contributed, as they always do. And so the May issue of Success Profiles Magazine is going to be all about how thoughts become things. And it's going to be fantastic and amazing. It'll be my favorite issue so far.
Oh my gosh. I love that story. I'm going to ask a few questions based on that story, and mostly because I know what some of my listeners are probably thinking. And so I want to ask what they would think. And because of that, oh man, where do I start? Okay. The first one I'm going to ask is, when you reached out to Kevin Harrington, first of all, this is a few years ago. Things are a little bit harder to reach. He's such a celebrity. It's amazing. How do you reach a Kevin Harrington? Like, how do you get a hold of him? Do you call a secretary? Do you look him up on Google? Like, how do you get a hold of a Kevin Harrington?
Yeah. Here's what happened. I had, at the time, a brand new Facebook connection, and we were talking and chatting, and, so what do you do? And so what do you do? And I'd mentioned my show, and this guy had mentioned having Kevin Harrington being a business partner in one of his businesses. And I just kind of offhandedly said, that would be such a great interview. I'd love to have him on my show someday. He's like, I can make that happen.
Relationships.
This was in a first conversation. So I don't normally, I wasn't saying, can you please hook me up? I said, I would love for that to happen someday. Because I was thinking, build the relationship first. And he just offered it to me. And sometimes when people say that, sometimes people actually do make that connection immediately, which he did. And others are like, yeah, I'll do that. And I've had people say they'd connect me to people and they never did.
Yeah.
So you kind of take things like that with a grain of salt. And interestingly enough, the very next day, actually right after we got done with the call, he hooked up an email intro to his assistant. And the next day the assistant said, yes, I'd love to make this happen for you. So yeah.
Boom.
And I've met him in person a few times. In fact, the really cool thing about this is I wanted this to be done in time for an event that he was speaking at, that my friend Brandon Adams was putting on. It was a Live to Grind event in December 2017. And so I wanted to print up some copies. Now, my magazine is primarily a digital magazine, and it's a paid subscription. So I've got some subscribers who are subscribing to it. But I do print some out occasionally for events, networking events and such. So I printed out a few copies and I took them. And so my goal was I wanted to support my friend and attend his event, but I really wanted to meet Kevin Harrington in person and give him this magazine. That was my primary goal. So I did. And so I got there and I was at the registration table a few minutes before the event started. I think I arrived 30 or 45 minutes early, was talking with a few people. I saw Kevin coming down the hall. I said, "Hey, Kevin." He recognized me immediately because he's seen my picture. We hadn't met in person. So handshake, hug it out. And I said, "I have a surprise for you." He says, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." So I showed him this. He's like, "I love this. I love being on the cover." I said, "I know you do." And he said, "Is this primarily a digital magazine? Is this something that you just print out a few copies just for events like this?" I said, "Yeah." He said, part of my presentation is about creating digital content. Is it okay if I show this to people during my talk?" Yes. Jesus, take me home now. Yes. And if you go to my Facebook profile, one of my featured photos is him speaking and holding it up like this while he's talking. If you look at the cover photo on my Facebook profile, it's Kevin Harrington giving me a high five right before he came up to talk. Now, the cool story about that, at this event, there was not a stage. Actually, no, there was a stage. He chose to speak on the floor in front of the stage so that he could be with us, which is a really cool move, I thought, on his part. As he was being introduced, I was sitting in the front row. He walked right up to me, shook my hand, gave me that high five and said, "Thank you, Brian." I said, "You're welcome, Kevin." And he went and started talking. And only 2 weeks later did I realize that someone had snapped a photo of that moment. I did not know. I cried. It was amazing. It's my favorite photo ever. So that's the cover photo from my Facebook profile. So you'll see that.
Okay. I love that story. I love that. That's amazing. And it doesn't, we can highlight Kevin Harrington all day, but we just know how great he is and awesome that is. But let's highlight the fact that you did exactly what we teach on the show and what we teach in over at my business Amplified Minds and in our mastermind groups. You did exactly what we teach, which is relationships. And you didn't ask for that in that relationship. You just said, you put it out to the universe. You said, "Man, I would love that." And because you were talking about aspirations, future dreams, and exciting things, people resonate with that more than, "Hey, would you be willing to hook me up?" Like most people care about the relationship and they're willing to do stuff for you because it honors them that they can honor you. And I love that. I love that story. I do want to take a time out here for a second and address my audience and say, you guys, now you know, I mean, if you didn't get it in the first 5 minutes, you get it now, that why this relationship with Brian K. Wright is amazing. He is such an awesome individual, such a personable person. You want to continue to understand him and become his friend and to contact him because he's just such a good person. But the storytelling, I go back to this. A lot of my audience members are future coaches, speakers, business owners. And in that realm, it's typical that somebody in their network is let's say an editor or a ghostwriter or something like that. And in their network, they have a guy, they know a guy or they know a gal, right? And they don't have that relationship with those person. They just know that that's probably the person they could call up first. But what I wanted to say to my audience is that if you have one of those persons, reconsider, because listen to Brian's voice, listen to his story, listen to his heart, and just know that how trustworthy and awesome that this individual is. And know that, would you rather have, this is the game of would you rather, okay? Would you rather have a ghostwriter, a book author, an editor, a radio host, someone who can highlight you the best way possible, like that story they just shared about Kevin Harrington? Would you rather have someone like that to someone who would just get the job done, right? That's what it's all about, and that's what it takes. And I just wanted to make that clear to my audience that you guys, Brian is an awesome individual, and Success Profiles magazine is nearly the beginning. He does private profiles for other people. He does other magazines for other people. He's doing some really, really awesome stuff. And so why not trust somebody who you can already relate with, and someone who already has such a humble background and an incredible beginning and such a fun story to tell.
Thank you for all of that. I really appreciate that.
I'll cut that video out and we'll send it to you as a
testimonial. Yes.
And
there's that GIF on Facebook where the guy's going, yes.
And I'll shoot more whenever you need it. But
awesome.
I wanted to take a time out to highlight that. So as we transition to the next piece, Brian, I wanted to ask you, the main thing we teach on this show, and the main thing we want our listeners to come to walk away with, is a nugget of knowledge. Okay, the golden nuggets of knowledge that they would need. And because we're the circle of knowledge, we just wanted to ask you, what is a piece of knowledge you would like to share? And given in mind that my audience is a lot of business owners, a lot of business related people, people seeking success, people learning, and also, future influencers, future speakers, future coaches, that generally is my audience. And because of that, what knowledge should we employ with them? What knowledge should we share with them that you would love to just leave with them?
Yeah, I would say give first. Give first. Like, for example, I mean, I get a lot of my business from connections on Facebook, interestingly enough. And it's not about sell, sell, sell. In fact, I'll give you some examples. I'm connected to a few people in the fitness training, the training fitness industry.
Yep.
And every time I meet someone and connect with someone from there, they want to ask me about, how's your fitness journey going? And it's all fine. But the end game is, they want me to enroll in their program or something. And I tell them, I'm connected to a few people in this industry and I've known for a long time. In fact, I worked with one of my friends who's an online fitness trainer. Why would I want to work with someone who's brand new and doesn't know me when I can work with someone who I have a 5, 6, 7, 8 year personal relationship with? In fact, one guy messaged me and he started, asking me these kinds of questions. And after a while, I said, I'm willing to talk to you, but I'm not going to enroll in your program. I mean, I was pretty blunt because I had 2 of those conversations with people on the same day. And by the time the second one happened, I'm like, I'm just not having this. I don't have time. I don't have time. Right. So I said, if you want to talk, that's fine, but I'm not going to enroll in your program if that's your end game. And this was a first conversation. And then he stopped talking. I'm like, okay, that's what he wanted. But here's the thing, you have to give first.
Yep.
Give value first. I mean, sometimes people in that space will offer to let me join their free group. Okay, great. I'll join your free group. That's fine. Or they'll have a free 5-day challenge. Okay, great. That's fine. In fact, I was in a free 5-day Facebook challenge about getting new clients. And, usually with free challenges, sometimes there's a lot of value and sometimes there's really not. But with this one, there was. In fact, I ended up getting a brand new magazine client from this 5-day challenge. And so that was really cool. And I'm going to have the guy who ran that challenge. He's a friend. And I reached out to him, 2 weeks after the challenge was over and said, hey, by the way, I just want you to know, I did get a client out of this challenge. I've got 2 more who I think are going to work with me in the next month or so. He's like, that's really great. I said, I really would love to have you on my show to share this with my audience. And he's like, I am in. So he's going to be on my show probably toward the end of June.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. And he wasn't jonesing to be on my show. And, but I said, I got a ton of value from this. And I think my audience needs to hear this. I want to share you with my audience. And he's like, let's go. But I'm booked for 2 months. Okay, great. Let's do it. So yeah. And that's the thing too, because you never know where something's going to lead. And so I'm just very interested in building relationships first. And, I would also say, if you're going to have a conversation, have a reason for it. I mean, I want to build the relationship first. I will ask people what they do first. Sometimes people ask me what I do first. Of course, I'll answer the question, but I'm being the interviewer that I tend to be. I want to know about you and what you're doing and see if there's a way for me to help you. If there's not a space for me to help you, then that's all good. I'll still be your friend. I'm friends with a lot of people that I haven't done business with. There are people out there who only want to be friends if you are going to be a potential client of theirs, and then they unfriend you when they reach a certain number of people. I'm like, okay, really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I think that's solid advice, and it honestly fits perfectly with what we always teach on this show and on our live hours and so forth. So I think that, developing relationships first is key. And people forget that, they build relationships based off of a transactional value or influence, which is, I got to get the sale, and if they're not interested, then I got to move on. And while some people in Kevin Harrington's circle would talk about that, I'm not going to mention any names because I definitely want to have that guy on my show or on your show. But I would definitely say, the relationships matter, and the relationships that matter will always end up being more valuable than money in the long run.
Absolutely, they will. I mean, if you asked a high level person, if I had to take away all of your money or if I had to take away your Rolodex, which one would you want to give up first? And they would probably say, you can take my money because my Rolodex will help me get it back.
Yeah. Yeah. And wow, that's good perspective. The way you put it, that's what a lot of people need to know and need to hear. We call it social capital, right? You've got
Yep.
to have social capital, and it doesn't mean the wealth of your network, but it's the wealth of knowledge, the wealth of creation, the wealth of relationship
Yeah.
that you have in your network. So
I mean, and that's the thing. Do you have $1 million Rolodex?
that's a
If you
great
don't,
question.
then if you don't, then you need to start connecting with people who can be a part of your $1 million Rolodex, or connect with people who know people. And I mean, once this shutdown ends, that includes going to live events. I met some great people at Eric Swanson's event where I got to meet you. Uh, go to virtual trainings, do virtual networking meetings. I mean, I belong to a group called Network Together. They're a local Arizona based networking organization. They're non-franchised, and they have a virtual option now where if you're anywhere in the country, you can join them for a real nominal fee, and you can go to as many virtual networking meetings a week as you want. And well, if you want to get in the Arizona market, even if you're not in Arizona, connect, because there are people from San Diego and from Denver and from Utah and from elsewhere who are a member of this organization. But you get to meet people and do one-on-ones and see where there are opportunities to do business together. In fact, I got to do a presentation last June at one of the meetings about why you should write a book. And after the meeting, 5 people came up to me, and I had one-on-ones with almost all of them. One of the guys ghosted me, but that's fine. But I had one-on-ones and meetings with 4 of them, and they couldn't afford my fee at the time. But one of them called me out of the blue a week ago and said, I know we didn't work together last year, but I've been working on a book and I want to revisit how we can work together. And we had that conversation yesterday. I think we're going to enter into a coaching relationship next week. Knock on wood, crossing fingers. But the way he talked yesterday, it sounds like he's going to work with me starting next week. So I'm excited about that. So you have a chance to do like a speech, a presentation for 10 minutes in front of the group if you have a relationship with the people who are running the organization, or a relationship with the people who are running that particular chapter. They're always looking for people who want to present and speak and give tons of value first. So you're talking about what it is you are expert in. And then at the end say, by the way, if this is something that you've ever thought you've wanted or needed in your business, I'd be glad to have a conversation with you and see where it goes.
I love that. Thank
Yeah,
you for that advice. That's
you're
amazing.
welcome.
My listeners are wondering how they can get a hold of you. I know that we mentioned here that you can go to Brian K Wright. That's WRIGHT.com. Brian K Wright. You see it in the corner of his screen there.
Yep.
BrianKWright.com. And from there, you can fill out the contact form, www.callwithbrian.com.
Yep. And that's a separate thing. The contact form on my website, briankwright.com, will send a message to my email. If you want to schedule a time to talk with me, whether it's about putting a magazine together, whether it's about ghostwriting a book, whether it's to do whatever, I mean, let me know. And I think there's a place where you can indicate what would you like to talk about. It's just for me to know how we're using our time. That's all.
Yeah.
Callwithbrian.com. You can get on my calendar and schedule a 30-minute session, and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about, and we'll see if there's a way for us to do something together. Callwithbrian.com, BRIAN, as you can see at the bottom of my screen. Callwithbrian.com.
Awesome. And then I do notice here, and by the way, to my listeners, we don't require any of our anyone who comes on our show, we don't require that they give away anything, but we do ask if there was a gift to give, what would it be? And Brian here says, hey, I have a 99-cent book of success profiles available on Kindle, 99 cents.
This one is 99 cents. Volume 2 is 99 cents. Yep. But the one that you're holding, that's still really, really fantastic. I mean, on Amazon, it's a lot cheaper. I mean, I sell signed copies of the one that you're holding in your hand for $20. If you reach out to me, briankwright.com, contact form. If you want a signed copy of that book, Success Profiles, Conversations with High Achievers, that John's holding in his hand for $20, I'll do it. And I'll send you a PayPal link. Yeah, and see, I did that for John right there. Woo. How?
Here's my signed how's this
Mr.
for
Fancy Pants. Mr. Fancy Pants, you have a signed copy of my book.
We're gonna say, whoa, okay. 3, 2.
Boom.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And then the magazine that fell behind us, that I'll just show everybody.
Yeah.
This is a magazine that Brian did for Eric Swanson and the Habitude Warrior team. You guys have seen it on my live shows. This is the Habitude Warrior Influence magazines. And in here, I have on the back last page also assigned, that's Brian's signature right there. So pretty awesome stuff. So again, go to Amazon.com. I'll put the link in the show notes here, but if you go to the show notes, everybody, you will see the link to Amazon, and you can go get his 99-cent Kindle version of the Success Profiles, and that will allow you to get his awesome Success Profiles book. And there's some great interviews and some conversations and stories in there.
Yep. So volume 2 is 99 cents on Kindle. Kevin Harrington, Chris Powell, Dan Locke. Chris Powell was amazing. I'll tell you what, for anyone who's looking to up level their health and fitness, he did a killer testimonial. If you go to my website, briankWright.com, and go to the reviews tab, a bunch of testimonials for people who have been on my show. And Chris Powell gave a really great testimonial. He says, when I go on people's shows, they want to know things like, what are the 5 best ways to get a 6-pack ab? And we talked about some health and fitness stuff, but we talked about the stuff behind the stuff. We talked about the mindset behind it, because you can do the things you do, but there is a deservingness, a worthiness factor. Think about this for a second. If you don't really, really deep down believe that you deserve to have a terrific body, it will never happen for you. You can do the thing, but something will sidetrack you, and you'll eventually fall off the wagon, and you'll gain all your weight back or revert back to what you were doing. You'll revert back to who you are.
Yeah,
that's true. I mean, it's all about self-identity. You will always revert to who you think you are. And so if you think you are an amazing athletic person, you will do the things that an athletic person will do. If you really honestly believe deep down in your heart that you are a millionaire, it's just not in your bank account yet, you will do the things that millionaires do. So I would ask myself, would millionaire version of Brian do this? Or yes. So if you think that you deserve something, you will act accordingly. And so we talked about the mindset and the worthiness issues behind health and fitness. So that was really great. Dan Locke was a really terrific interview. In fact, I did a magazine.
Yeah, Dan.
He was on the cover of my magazine in July, and his team put the Iron Man thing back there. In fact, I sent a mock-up of the front cover. I said, this is what my designer did. And they sent it back the next day saying, my team modified your cover. I'm like, oh, what did you do? And so I clicked it open and opened the attachment. I saw the Iron Man. I said, oh.
Yeah. This
is so amazing. And if anyone wants to subscribe to Success Profiles Magazine, go to successprofilesmagazine.com. It's $1 for 7 days. And then you pick the subscription model you want to be a part of. You can read any issue that I've done, special edition, the short special edition features and the monthly features. And there's calls with experts, exclusive content. So yeah, it's all there.
Well, Brian, this has been a treat. This has been awesome. And I know that this won't be the last time we do this, but I've learned so much, and I hope that my listeners just take in the lessons that I've gained as well. And I hope that they'll recognize just those principles, those golden nuggets you shared with them, and the knowledge that is to be achieved. Let's finish with this. From all the information we've talked about, from all the stories, what challenge can we issue to the listeners right now? What's something that we can challenge them to go and do? One step, one piece of action that they can take today to go and to build their success profile.
Think really big and then take action. I think a lot of people play too small. A lot of people play small. I mean, there's a huge difference between being the big fish in a small pond and being a small fish in a big pond. Because if you think about it, if you are in a small pond, you can only grow to be a certain size. You can't outgrow the pond because you won't fit in the pond anymore. So you need to play a bigger game. You need to play with bigger fish. So think bigger. And this is something that I've been learning, is think really big. And I'll tell you one thing that I do to set my day is I listen to wealth and inspirational affirmations on YouTube. There are plenty of videos out there where you can just listen. In fact, I'll give you one. If you search on YouTube for Bob Proctor wealth affirmation, you will see a 2-hour clip, and it's a background of Bob Proctor. And it's him saying over and over, and this is looped over and over again for 2 consecutive hours. I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. You hear that for 2 straight hours, you're going to believe it. So my goal is to listen to about 30 minutes of that a day. That or something like it.
I love that. And then take action, right?
Take action. That's the thing. And this is the whole thing too. The difference between The Secret and the movie How Thoughts Become Things. In fact, you can go to howthoughtsbecomethings.com and you can see the movie. I think it's like $9.95 to see the movie. It's terrific. If you have an hour, you must see this. All the people I talked about earlier are in it. John DeMartini, Joe Vitale, Dennis Waitley, John Assaraf, a few more. Bob Doyle's in it. Bob Proctor's in it. There's like 12 people in this. Doug Vermeeren is amazing. But the difference between The Secret and How Thoughts Become Things is the action component. So The Secret talks about asking, believing, receiving. And then the movie How Thoughts Become Things talk about how you make that happen. So see it.
I absolutely love that. When you were talking, I pulled out of my desk a quote that I have been having saved. And this is a well-known quote, and I'll just share it with you. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us, and your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure about you. We are all meant to shine. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. Mm-hmm. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
Marianne Williamson.
Williamson. Yep. And that was just illuminating from what you were saying. And I wanted to just end with that. So I appreciate you. I love you. I am so grateful for your friendship and
me too.
Amazing stuff. Everyone go and contact and get a hold of and jump on a call with Brian K. Wright and learn more about him, become friends, and also strive for success and greatness, and within your life, within your own measures, and within your own circles.
And please let me know that you found me because of John.
Awesome. And I know we haven't set up any way to do that, but if you guys just mention me or the Circle of Knowledge podcast, that helps us a lot. So we really appreciate that. So
awesome.
Brian, thank you so much for being on the show today. I miss you, friend, and I can't wait till we can get outside and hang out.
I know. I miss you too, my brother. You're awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. It's been great to be here.
All right. Thank you.